Hey friends, hope you're enjoying Harmony's action-packed sessions so far. For those of you who don't know me, my name is June and I'm a developer advocate at Zeppelin. Today, I'll be speaking with my friend Andy about scaling design efficiency. Andy has the power of the time stone and he does a lot with his time. Andy is the executive vice president of design at Rocket Companies. He's a member of the Adobe Design Circle. He's an adjunct professor for Kent State University. And he serves on the advisory board for multiple organizations and educational institutions. Andy, thank you so much for being here today and joining me. I know you have lots of things going on.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, thanks, June. I'm really happy to be here. I appreciate getting the opportunity to share some of my experiences with the Zeppelin community.
Before we kind of go into that, would love to learn more about what you do at Rocket Companies and what Rocket Companies is all about.
So I lead design at Rocket Companies. So Rocket Companies is obsessed with helping our clients achieve the dream of home ownership and financial freedom. So we're made up of Rocket Mortgage, Rocket Money, Rocket Homes, Rocket Loans, Rocket Auto. And what my team does, we've got about 160 really passionate and curious design team that is made up of experienced designers. We've got our brand team, we've got research, which is a mix of market research, design research, our CX research. And then we've got our design operations team. We have a design systems team. So we are really focused on how we improve our business and the experience for our clients in all that we do. So I lead a design organization that is around 160 people. So it's made of our experienced designers, design operations, our design systems team, research, meaning market research, CX research, design research, as well as our brand team.
Very cool. So Rocket Companies is kind of like the umbrella company, and there's a lot of other companies underneath it. One of those companies I know well and true is Quicken Loans, right?
So Quicken Loans has evolved into Rocket Mortgage. So the name change rebrand happened in July of last year.
Gotcha.
But yes, that's everyone's seen Rocket Mortgage through the Super Bowl commercials and all of the different promotions that we do.
So Andy, it looks like you've been in the design game for a while, 10 years or so. What are some of like the major changes you've seen from, when you started? I'm sure you didn't start at Rocket Companies, but you started at some, design or tech company to what it is today.
Yeah, I've seen so many changes over the last 20 plus years I've been in this game, right? So over the last 10 years, we've seen the most changes, exponential increase. So when I started, designers were focused on like, how do we solve a single problem? What are we looking at? Is it a website? Is it even print back then, right? Then it evolved a little bit to like different screens on an app and what is our mobile experience? And now we're looking at things so holistically across an entire end-to-end experience. So we're designing not just multiple screens, but multiple touch points. We're leveraging different mediums of design, different technology. We've got conversational experiences. We've got, you're thinking of end-to-end ecosystems. How do people come in through an entire, what is their journey through the whole process? We have to think about that as designers. So the stakes are higher than they've ever been before. And we're actually applying design, the design lens and design thinking in the way we work to solving large organizational problems. And that means as designers, the shift goes not only on the client like we've always been, but also on business outcomes and how are we able to speak the language of the business. And what I'm starting to even see more is this shift in designers leading organizations. So how do we start by leading design adjacent areas and then take that lens and apply it broadly? And it's just been an incredible shift to see over time.
Yeah, I've been hearing that a lot. Back in the day, you just need like one website for one company and you're pretty much done. And now you have, your external apps, your internal apps, multiple different websites, just like Rocket Companies probably have a lot of subsidiaries underneath you, right? And the question
Exactly.
I'm most interested in is back then, maybe you had 3 or 4 people and, you don't need something, maybe like a design system to kind of keep you grounded. But now it seems like design systems are essential to kind of scaling designs. Wondering what your thoughts are on here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, back then it was like you've got a pattern library or a style guide. And then again, like we've matured as a practice, the needs that we have to scale design have changed drastically. So I remember we had like file repositories and what that looked like, and one like UI kit. Then it turned into like, can we get voice and tone in there? Does it incorporate like button styles? And it was probably just at the time a sketch file, or back in the day a Photoshop. Like the tool doesn't matter, right? So then, we started to see this evolution of tools. And I think Zeppelin was one of the early ones of how we can start to house these materials in a way that the team can access it and we can share with engineers. And then the need really is like, we need to go beyond that. We need fully functional code that everyone has access to. We need the exact same design files that people have access to, with the ability to change based on states and based on different needs, and put together components. And I think we started to see this with atomic design with Brad Frost, talking about how these different things, they start as atoms, as small elements, and then they get built on top of each other till we have these full functioning patterns. And the need now for design teams is that consistency, and for companies to have that consistency, both in look and feel and in the code, in how we bring that to life. And the design system over the last 10 years has become this like document that people could edit and disperse to like, this is a living, breathing thing that teams are fully focused on and companies have invested in. And they're their own product teams, essentially, that are making sure that the organization keeps their design consistent and continuing to be improved upon.
Yeah, I think consistency is definitely a key topic. And to bring everyone in, I think you have to nail right on the head. You need to have kind of like a central, like safe place for everyone to kind of come together, whether that be a designer working on a UI kit or a developer working on some production code. Should all live in a place where it's accessible to everybody, right? I would just want to double click into one thing is that you're now on a team that, over 160 designers. And I'm sure you started off with a smaller team beforehand. What are some of the challenges you've seen when you're trying to scale your design team from like, I don't know, a couple, maybe 3 or 4 to over 160?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we think about scaling design teams in general, it's about how do we prove the value of the work that the team is doing. So taking on things like pilot projects, actually starting with people who are like, I think I understand this design thing. I know I kind of need it, to like proving that value to them and saying, we're building these advocates. So they're talking about the success that the design team has to other people that aren't working with design. And they're like, hey, wait, I need designers on my project, or I need, help in this way. So, you can't do that with 4 or 5 people. So naturally, organically, as the needs arise, the team will start to grow. And then as the team grows, just to go back to where we were just going from, you need a way to like, it's easy when there's 4 or 5 people to just jam together, but when there's 50 or 60 people across different products, like it's hard for them to communicate and talk and share best practices and figure out what works. And if they're working off of one, we'll call it a pattern library, we'll call it a design system, which we call it today. Like, how do you impact that? How do you get to like contribute back and make it better? And it's really hard to have that opportunity when the teams are working off of different systems. So by having a single design system, you're allowing the like best practices to surface so that they can be used in different parts of the organization. So essentially the problems that you're trying to solve, whether it be conversion or what call to action or anything that leads to like increases in how we operate through the experiments that we run, you're able to surface those in different places so that everyone can share those successes and best practices without having to reinvent the wheel. So it's essential to scale. But scaling comes along, just to go back again to scaling, that is something that takes a lot of time and effort, and you build a solid foundation and you find those opportunities to shine the lens of design and show those impacts. But when you start to scale in certain areas, like our operations team, like our design systems team, it's hard to communicate to an organization, hey, I need to add these folks that may not contribute to the bottom line today. They are going to definitely improve our output. They're going to improve how fast we get things to market. But you're not going to measure that in 2 weeks. You're going to measure that in 6 months or a year. So having built those relationships with people and getting that trust for me to be able to say, this is what we need, it's going to really prove itself out long term, but not today. that's hard for a lot of companies unless they really have that relationship and buy-in with design.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And, I feel that a lot of organizations, bigger organizations, like what you said, have to have consistency, have to have trust within their people, have to have a design system that actually, works for them and works for the whole team. And I'm curious, you mentioned before, like, a design system isn't just for designers. It could be for developers, it could be for QA, it could be for many different functions of the overall team. I'm curious, how did, rocket companies kind of, I don't know, enact or create your design system? Was it a top-down approach? Was it a bottom-up approach when you thought about different champions? Can you share a little
Yeah.
bit about that?
Yeah, so when I got here, we had a design system, a very early version of a design system, but we were noticing that the implementation wasn't as high as we would like. So there was still a lot of customization happening. So we realized early on, like, this isn't just a tool for designers, this is something for the entire organization. So how can we start to understand the pain points of the partners that we work with on a daily basis? And through that, we'd understand, like, what can we build? What can we co-create together that will actually help all of these people? Look, everybody wants really good work. Everybody wants to ship things fast. Everybody wants the highest quality. So how do we do this in a way that actually empowers and helps everyone to do that? And that was through the design system. So we did interviews, we did an audit. We realized, hey, we should probably like rebuild something. So we spent some time and like through like research and interviews and talking to people and understanding the needs, we decided to build a completely new design system, which we launched this year. Now, that's still a work in progress. So our design system today, when we launched it about 6 months ago, it's got an updated color system, a typography kit, a spatial system, a grid system, iconography. Our initial launch had 39 unique components, 274 component variants, a fully functional UI kit, production-ready code in Angular and React, and a robust documentation site, right? So what we've learned from that is that was V1. We're on V2.2, and it's only been a few months because you realize, hey, the documentation wasn't great. We need to improve that. These buttons don't cover things. We're going to make some brand shifts. The design system for us is really at the forefront of our brand because we're a digital first company, right? So what we're starting to see is how we can have this like our voice and tone guides that we built for conversational design have proven to be best practices. They end up in our design system, then they impact our overall brand voice and tone. So we leverage our digital brand, our design system to impact and evolve places that we can move faster, we can iterate easier. And it's a mix, everything is a mix of top down, bottom up, right? So the team at the bottom is surfacing the need. Like, we need this. This is a pain point. And then it takes, a leader that's willing to say, hey, that's a good idea. Like, how do we start to socialize that and get greater buy-in across the organization? For me, the way we explain the benefits of a design system, and I've talked through them already, they're no-brainers for a lot of companies when we want to make these big investments that we're making in our products. So it wasn't a hard sell. It's kind of like, how do we get people and put them on it, and what can we do, and how do we make it go even faster? How do we get to like the next iteration and the next iteration? Our teams are working really hard on what we can release and update, and it's amazing to watch because we're really seeing the power of like design driven collaboration to impact the organization in ways that provide efficiency and for us multiple companies.
So it sounds like it was a mixture, like there was a need from more of the bottom on why this design system is needed. And the values are very clear in terms of consistency, in terms of delivering the same experience every single time, but also needed the help from management, right? To kind of empower everybody, not only, designers, but everyone else in the org to come along and to join this design system, because the design system is only as good as, the sum of all its parts. The question I have now is there has been a rise of design system engineers or design ops engineers or whatever title you want to put on it, but someone that is in charge of the whole design system. Is that true over at rocket companies too? Is there like a person that makes sure that the voice of not just designers and developers, but the whole company is heard?
There is. So the leader of our design systems team We actually have a design leader and an engineering leader because the way we need to educate the entire organization on best practices happens to fall through different audiences, and our designers and engineers are the key users. So what we try to do is have someone, a leader that's understanding all the needs, helping do the training. Of course, the teams are responsible for like training. We do office hours, we do engineering office hours weekly, we do design office hours weekly. That's an opportunity for everyone within the organization to ask questions about our design system, whether it's related to code or visual components, a way to review things that they're working on to make sure that it's consistent with the patterns in the design system. It's their opportunity to surface challenges that they're having or an area that they're like, hey, you didn't build this yet. So how can I contribute back to this thing? And also it's just kind of like a way to build that community around this like shared ownership of the usage of the design system. So while it does sit in one part of the organization, ownership in that is kind of shared, right? Because the way Rocket Mortgage implements things, and that's the majority of the components that we build, like those are used for other rockets, Rocket Auto, Rocket, loans. So for us, it's like they're also going to have unique use cases, and we need to understand those.
Design systems, you mentioned, are kind of managed by a design leader as well as an engineering leader, and they kind of come together to make sure that the design system is well serviced and actually valuable for everybody on the team. How do you measure the success of a design system? Because a design system, in my opinion, is an internal kind of tool, right? It's not
Right.
what your end user sees, but it's a critical ingredient to make sure that you deliver on that said thing, right? So can you explain a little bit about that?
So we quantify the design system in a lot of ways, right? So when we think about how these teams collaborate together is really important. The goal, a design system cannot be successful without collaboration. So when we look at how much time that collaboration would have taken to come to a solution and the back and forth to think about new components, the design system solves for that by leveraging the best practices that we've already learned in other areas. So that experimental time is cut by 70% most of the time. The other piece that we focus on is that quality of work actually improving? Can we look at the design? Can we look at the code and realize this is better than it was before exponentially? And can we quantify how much better it is by the results that we're getting from our customers through our NPS scores, through conversion? Those are some key ways. I think another thing that we look at is our speed to market, right? So when we think about how long it took us to get something out, maybe it was a couple of weeks before, now it's a lot shorter. So we're able to quantify that in many ways. So I think, design systems, each organization is going to have a different way, different metrics that are important to them. For us, those are the ways that we look at it.
Yes, I think speed, quality, consistency, I think those are all hallmarks for a great design system. And I'm curious, like, I think you know this better than I do. As a design system grows, as your internal product kind of grows, there's going to be a need for more resources to be put into it to make it even better the next time. The question to you I have now is, are there things that you look for out in the wild in terms of open source design systems or any kind of things that you look for inspiration on how to improve it in the coming months or in the coming year? How does that work in terms of road mapping and to improving your own design system at Rocket companies?
Yeah, so for us, we're always looking. We look everywhere for inspiration, internally, externally. The people that use our products inspire us. So when we think about where our design system goes, some of the areas aside from like how do we stay on top of trends to see if like our button styles need to change or anything like that, or paying attention to where our brand is going to make sure that we're staying in front of that as well. I think we start to introduce a lot of things that we add to it. So, voice and tone is something that we're really focusing on even deeper. I think as we expand our conversational design capabilities, having a design system that focuses on chat, because we're an enterprise company to some extent where we support people that use our banking tools, our internal banking team, there's a version of our design system for internal tools that we need to focus on as well, because it's a little bit of a different use case. It's more of a power user. So being able to be flexible in our design system and being able to continue to add to it while we're continuing to improve it is something that like our roadmap is full of things, and that roadmap's constantly being reprioritized as needs arise within the organization. So it's been it's constant source of like learning and growing and evolving.
Yeah, I think you said it before, right? A design system is like a living document. It's
Right.
never finished and it's always continued to work on. It's like a story that never ends, and you're always trying to make it better. One last question about the design system before we move on is you mentioned that there's many people on the team that use this design system. And a good hallmark indicator of how good it is how many people actually use it. So
Right.
question to you is like, how do you empower your entire team, not just the designers and developers, but your entire team to know like, hey, this is a value for you. This is will make your job a lot more efficient. It'll make you more consistent and make it better. Like, how do you let like a QA person know? How do you let someone in management know like, hey, there's something in it for you?
It's a constant like evangelization and education. So we do lunch and learns. We educate in different team meetings to show people the value of the design system. We have yet to see somebody that's like, wow, that's not powerful in any way, right? Like everyone that looks at it is like, I think I could figure out a way to use this, or I think I can see a benefit to this. And we're like, yes, now come to office hours and we'll really help you unlock that potential. So showcasing what a design system is capable of doing, like piques that interest. It kind of stokes that creative fire for people. And they're like, wow, how do I leverage this? How do I let my teams leverage this? So what we're doing is we're telling that story of the benefit to start to like build that like interest within the organization, and then we spend the time educating them on how to like leverage that for their own teams. So it's like we would do with we treat it like any other like design or any other product that we have, right? There are potential users that we have, and then there are people that we want to convince that they could do this, could solve a problem for them. So we want them to be excited about it too. So it's just figuring out the right stories to tell to the right audiences to get people excited about the design system. And we've seen a lot of excitement around it in the organization. So I'm really like happy with the work the team has done and happy to see where it's going to take us in the future.
Yeah, it's really cool. You know, you have things like lunch and learns, you have things like part of your champions or evangelists within the organization to kind of share the word, the good word of the design system, right? And why it's so
Exactly.
useful to actually scale designs efficiently. Another question I have is, I think we touched on upon this before when we talked, is you have design systems as a tool to help you scale designs, but are there any other things that you're looking at? Like design ops is a huge kind of trendy thing that's going on. Maybe AI with, AI is taking off, right? With chat
Right.
GPT, like that. Are there any other tools in your belt, so to say, to make scalability a little bit more easier for designs?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're always learning. We're always looking at tools and how things evolve. You mentioned AI, and I will say, like, I've spent way too many hours playing with Chat GPT, asking it different things. Tell me a story about my team as if Taylor Swift wrote it, and then not really loving what it told me, hitting the like refresh, thinking it would save, and then all of a sudden it thinks my team actually built physical rockets, which was hysterical to walk through with the team. But like as we look at some of the things that we're doing and focusing on, like every time there's a tool that can enhance collaboration, anytime there's a way that could get us to an outcome faster, like we want to experiment with it, we want to see if it works for us. So as designers, as people who build products, like we're curious, we see the things, we have been through enough tool changes to know like what are the ones that are going to stick, who are the tried and true, like who have been around for a little bit, and what are they introducing, because those are the things that are super interesting. Because if we can make that work for us, and that's like, I don't want to use a rocket metaphor, but that's like strapping a rocket to what we're doing, right? If there's a way to enhance our design system collaboration, we want to see that. Like we need to in this environment, we need to figure out ways to gain as many inches as we can. And if some of that is automated, if some of that is a tool that makes things a little bit easier, if some of that is bringing in a different discipline, like we're constantly wanting to understand that and seeking to understand what that is.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right ahead there for when you said collaboration. I think that's the best way to use these new and incoming stuff, whether it be design ops or using ChatGPT. It's not a replacement, so to say, but it's like an aid that will help you, help the designer, help the developer, help other people on your team to kind of brainstorm, and get some new interesting ideas and to make that process a lot faster. Switching gears now in terms of just your own team, what are you looking for in terms of when you're hiring a designer? Is it someone that's passionate about all these new things that are coming up, like the AI stuff, or are you looking for people that have X amount of experience doing web stuff? Are you looking for future things for like wearables and AR and VR? Like, what kind of attributes are you looking for when you're looking for to hire someone on your team?
It's a great question. I would say all of the above, but at
Okay.
the same time, that's a cop-out answer, right? So one of the things that we talk a lot about is inclusion. We talk about diversity. And when I think about diversity, I think about diversity in many different ways. I think about diversity in background, diversity in experience, diversity in thought. So, it might not be someone that came out of a design school, or it very well may be. It's who can add something to our team, our entire team, that makes us better. So we're not looking for culture fit, we look for culture add. And what that really means is if you don't have a design experience, that's okay. Like maybe you did something adjacent that can really help our team in the situation that we're in. I think the other thing that's really important to us is curiosity, right? You mentioned passion. Passion is something that you can't teach somebody. And that inquisitiveness that people have to want to learn, want to dig deeper into the why. Like that is key for us. I would love someone curious that I can teach things to, as opposed to somebody that's set in their ways. So
Hmm.
that curiosity is the number one thing.
Cool. And I think that curiosity will definitely drive, to learn new things, right? To learn new tooling out there. And at the end of the day is to kind of scale the designs as your team grows. Because now you're at 160 people, probably at the end of the year, it might be close to 200, I'm
200
not
or so.
sure. But there has to be certain things, certain tool sets that the whole team can use to be like, hey, like this is the way we move forward. This is how we scale stuff as efficiently as possible. This is how we learn new things, right? And I think by combining all those things, you have someone that's curious, someone that has that drive, someone that's eager to learn, and someone that's not stuck in their ways, right?
Right. Exactly.
Well, thank you, Andy, for sharing a little bit about what Rocket Companies does and how you scale your designs in your own organization. I'm sure I learned a lot, and the people watching have learned a lot as well. Andy, I know you do a lot of stuff in the community out there. You do a lot of talks, a lot of conferences, a lot of meetups. Is there anything you want to plug here?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I really do love giving back to the design community. So if anyone has any questions or wants to reach out about their design system, about their own like growth in design, or any way that I can help, they can find me at Andy Vitale on LinkedIn, at Twitter. Like I'm really interested in like giving back and helping. So
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Definitely bug Andy. He does a lot of stuff. He also has a cool podcast as well. Thank you again for joining me today. It was awesome to have you on, and thanks for watching. Take care, everybody.